revealed to us, that God reveals himself to people through the Son of God, through Jesus Christ. That's his sovereignty kind of being lived out. In other words, Jesus said, no one comes unless the Father, what? Calls him. No one comes unless the Father draws him. Correct? So here Jesus said that the Father will call, but it's me who's revealing the Father to you. And that's his sovereignty. He calls. He reaches out first. It's God who loved us first. He draws us in. But watch this now, because next comes this really, really awesome and very famous and very popular part of Scripture. Beginning in verse 28, Jesus says, come unto me, all ye that labor and are heavy laden, and I will give you rest. Now, we love that verse. Anybody else love that like me? Love that. But keep the context of what Jesus is saying. First, he says that the Son will reveal the Father. The Father's calling, but he's revealed through the Son. Okay? That's God's sovereignty. People say, well, you believe in election? Yes. The Bible teaches it. The Bible teaches that God calls, and that's his sovereign will. But verse 28 teaches the responsibility of man. Come unto me, Jesus says. So certainly there's sovereignty in God. He's the one that calls and Jesus reveals. But here we see that there's a responsibility given to man. You have to come unto him. And people say, well, wait a minute now. So is it both? Yeah, it's both. God's sovereignty, but man has a responsibility to come to God when he's called. And so this is where the question gets kind of debated. Well, does everybody that's called come? Well, Jesus said, whosoever will call upon the name of the Lord shall be saved. And so you've got to figure there are those who call upon the name of the Lord and that are saved, right? That was me. That was you, perhaps. So there are whosoever wills, and there's whosoever won't. Because some won't call upon the name of the Lord. Now, the big question mark is, does that mean they weren't called? No, I'm not sure. I do know this, that Jesus said, right, that whosoever wants to come to me, I will in no wise cast them out. So would he be indicating then that some won't come? Because if they'd come, he would accept them. He'd bring them in. But what does that mean? Well, Paul says in Romans 8, beginning with verse 28 and on down through that section, Paul says that who God foreknew, he predestined. And whom he predestined, them he called. And whom he called, them he justified. Right? Them he justified, he also glorified. Now that's one that will make you scratch your head a bit, because Paul uses all terms that are in the past tense to describe the whole process. Past tense, God foreknew me. Past tense, he predestined me. Past tense, he called me. Past tense, he justified me. Past tense, he glorified me. Which is why Paul says, we are already seated in heavenly places. Past tense. It's a done deal. Whoa, wait a minute. That's heavy. It is. And your little brain will pop. Trying to think that one through too heavy of a discussion with that will always bring, a cloud cover, because it's too much, really. People have been arguing over the responsibility of man versus the sovereignty of God and election and grace and all that. I mean, you just can't really resolve it, because it's a God thing. It is what it is. God knows who I am before he makes me. The mystery is, why did he make me? Huh? If God knew what he was getting into, why did he make any of us? That's really the game changer for me. I'm like, Lord, did you know you knew me before you made me. I was a bad bet. Huh? But he knew what he was going to do. And that's why Jesus says, look, I'll reveal the Father to you. That's my part. Your part is to come unto me. I'll let you know that I'm calling and revealing the nature of the Father. You can see it in me. You can see it in my face. You can see it in my life. But your part is to come. Come unto me. And I love this because Jesus says, come unto me, all ye that labor and are heavy laden, and I will give you rest. The idea here is that life is too heavy. Sin is too heavy of a burden to carry. So if you are heavy laden and burdened with that sin and laboring in that, then you should come to Christ. That's what we tell people, right? This is the gospel. This is the gospel message. That Jesus Christ died so you don't have to carry that burden of sin anymore. Come to him and he will lift it. He will take the burden away and he will give you rest. Now, I love this, obviously.